Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our dear brothers. We were saying that he was once a soldier and he fought in the wars of independence. The message continues like this. Nashi, my son, the woman cooked us dog meat and we dealt with her. But up to today, the picture of what we did to that woman still haunts me. I have no rest, and this is what happened. Soon after the destruction of the camp at Chimoyo, we had to leave, and we left that same day. A few months later, we found ourselves in Russia, training for the guerrilla warfare. And after a number of years, we were equipped and deployed to our different areas back in Rhodesia. Life was normal back home, and our coming back was very secretive, and nobody knew about us except for the people who knew about our operation and those who were ready to fight the colonial system. Our own people in the villages would give us food because we had no permanent place to live in. So now and then we would actually be living in the bushes, and that is where my story is going. We had became people of the bush, and because of the nature of the war, we could not have any permanent base because we were comrades, guerrilla fighters. We were at a disadvantage, and hence that is why we had opted to stay in the bushes so that the soldiers, the Rhodesian soldiers, would not ambush us like they had done in Chimoyo. Now every day we would let the villagers know that we were around, and they had to cook food for us and bring it at that temporary base that we would have arranged to meet. At this base, women would come with food, and if we were camped in one area, we would stay there for about a week. Sometimes the villagers will sell us out, and then the soldiers will come after us. After the contact and the shooting, we will go back to the villages and we will deal with those ones that were selling us out. That is where my problem came from. As for those sellouts, what we will do with them is that sometimes we will cut the lips so that whenever they will be going around, then people will know that this one is a Rhodesian sellout. One incident that will never escape my mind till today is when one lady decided to cook us a dog because she had finished all of her chicken. She had finished all of her chicken whilst she had been feeding us. So the entire village would cook for us, bring the food to us, and this was in the middle of the war. So on this day, the ladies brought food for us to eat, and I don't know who had seen her, but the report then came to us to look out for a certain woman who would be wearing a red duke, and we had to make her to eat her own food. The women came in a line. They gave us soft porridge, and they also brought chicken, some beef. Then, because we had been tipped off, we then asked that lady, that same lady whom we had been told that she would be wearing a red duke, to taste her own food. I looked at her right in her eyes, and I asked her to taste her own food whilst we had our guns pointed at her. She looked at me, and I could tell from the training that we had received that her eyes were filled with fear. She was nervous. She failed to eat the meat, and we all knew that it was true. She had cooked a dog for the comrades that were fighting for her own freedom. We told the lady to sit down, and we had our food, and we ate. We had turned into wild animals, I am telling you, and being away from home and being trained to be a tough soldier, it had taken away all the compassion away from us. And one more thing, Brother Nashi, when we were still in the bushes, because of all the fighting that were taking place, what we ended up doing was that we will take gunpowder and we will use it as some drugs so that at least you can just deassociate, your mind can deassociate from the fighting that was taking place. The reason as to why I ended up doing this sort of a drug using the gunpowder, it was this other time when I heard of a story. I thought that it was just a story, but 3 days later, that was when we came across the dead body, or let me say the pieces that once belonged to one of our own comrades. And I went to school with this guy. He had been caught by the Rhodesian soldiers. What they did to him is that when they caught him, these Rhodesian soldiers, they had 2 long ropes. The other rope They tied that rope on his right leg, then the other rope on his left leg. So they had two horses that they were driving into different directions. So as these horses kept on pulling him apart, then his body was ripped into two pieces. That is how he died. So you cannot be normal when you come across such a thing. And after that, that was when I agreed to take that gunpowder. After eating Brother Nashi, that is when we asked the boys to make a fire and to put a drum on the fire and to pour water. The entire village was there by force. They had to come to witness how we will deal with these traitors. That lady was seated down and she didn't know what was about to happen to her. As I am writing this to you, I feel my entire body feeling cold and my heart pumping, because what we did on that day, it was truly inhumane. We ordered the strong men of the village to lift her up and put her in that boiling drum of water. Brother Nashi, my son, I have never seen something like that in my life. Within that moment, all of her entire skin came out, because this water, it was boiling, and her skin started to float on top of the water, and the entire village started to cry. I ordered her to be taken out of the boiling water. Then she was still alive, but she had been cooked alive. Humans, one thing about humans, they do not die that easily. Yes, they can remove your body parts, but you will still survive. I don't know why. People, they started to disperse and she was left alone. Up to today, I'll never forgive myself. Even that picture happened almost 44 to 45 years ago. 44 years later, this picture, it is still in my mind. We left her. Then we heard that she died the following morning. She had no children, and rumors said that she was a witch. Who on earth had the guts to kill a dog for other human beings to eat? I am not justifying myself. She didn't deserve to die that way. And I know that the spirit of war was upon us. A lot of terrible stuff happened during the wars of independence. If it was possible, one should do a documentary about this Rhodesian war that happened in between the borders that are surrounding Zim. A lot of terrible stuff happened. A lot of people, when we came from the war, they never received like counseling. We were just told to return back to our villages. Most of these war veterans, they are traumatized a lot, and no one even bothers to check up on them. We saw cruel stuff that were being done. It is not us who only did this cruel stuff. Even the white Rhodesian soldiers, I feel sorry for them. Just imagine to be forced by your own superiors to force a horse to rip a man in half. Even if you are a racist, but still, as long as you are a human being, I'm sure that deep down in your heart, when you go to bed, you will think about what you would have done. That is why a lot of us were smoking this gunpowder, so that we can deassociate from everything that was happening during the wars of independence. Whenever you hear these war veterans saying, war is not good, war is not good, yes, indeed, you might think that they are trying to scare you, but war, especially if it is civil war, the same people fighting against, the same people from the same country fighting against each other, that war, it can turn ugly, and a lot of ugly stuff will start to happen, like what happened when we were fighting for our own independence. I still do not have peace of mind, because whenever I close my eyes, sometimes I actually see those young boys that we forced to go and gather firewood. They were actually crying when they were busy lighting that big fire. And as men were busy pouring water into that metallic drum, that lady, she was shaking. She begged us to shoot her. She said, please just shoot me so that I can die. Then we laughed at her and we said, so you want to die in peace, but you fed us the meat of a dog. You're not going to die in peace. When she was lifted, Brother Nashi, and when she was thrown into that big metallic drum that was full of boiling water, That was when I returned back to my senses and I said, this thing that we have done, it is evil. But I didn't want to be seen as a weak leader. I wanted to be seen as a strong man. So I just looked to the side, but I wanted to cry. And I started to shout on top of my voice so that I can block that little voice that was telling me that what we had done was evil. We terrorized everyone that was at that meeting. From there on, everyone started to respect us. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by our dear brother. Strange things do happen in this world.